Very different story for England, who finished off this final international break with their third victory in a row, 2-1 win at home to Poland. What did you make of England's international break then?
England are a very good side. I think that's quite clear. And again, watching in midweek against Poland, they have so many threats. You know, and players that can come in. You know, you have to remind yourself that Grealish wasn't playing, Sancho hadn't been playing, and others, Rashford, Greenwood, and yet Foden, I thought was really good on the night again. I thought Sterling just drove their right fullback, crazy because he just couldn't get near him. Every time he put on the power to, you know, that turn of foot, he caused Poland a lot of problems. Harry Kane, you know, does what Harry does, leads the line really well. I think England just looked... I thought one of the biggest things that stood out for me was the relationship between Rice and Phillips at Leeds. I thought they really gelled well, and Henderson didn't seem to be missed, which would be a massive plus for Gareth Southgate, because Henderson's a big player for England and still will be. But having someone step in like Calvin Phillips, a little bit unnoticed. He didn't have an amazing game, but I thought he gelled really well with Declan Rice.
You mentioned some of the players that are missing from the England squad due to injury, or even perhaps some players not picked for this international break. But Grealish and Sancho in particular, two players, there are rumours, reports suggesting they might not even get picked for the Euros. Is that a miss, perhaps, from Gareth Southgate, in your eyes?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Grealish, when he came in, he played, 3-4 games back-to-back? He was 3 times out of the 4 man of the match.
Yeah. I
would go, well, why would you select him if he's performed so well? And he's been brilliant for Villa this season. You know, he's been outstanding. And they've struggled since he's not been in the team at Villa. So I would find that. I just don't see that. I can't believe Gareth wouldn't select Grealish, even if others come in and play well. He set a very high bar for me, Jack Grealish, when he came into the international team. So, no, and Sancho's had a great season at Dortmund and, again, hasn't done anything to be left out. I think what's refreshing, and this happens at club football a lot, is when you have players playing at a really high level, players can come in and they have to at least reach that mark, which is a good thing because you're now fighting for a shirt in the team. And if you're doing that, you're always getting high levels of performances.
One other player, perhaps, that's been talked about, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Jurgen Klopp's not particularly happy, it seems, with Gareth Southgate omitting him from the team. And he's demanding answers, it seems, if you're believing reports that we're seeing, as to why Trent Alexander-Arnold has not been picked. And again, it's led to questions being asked of, will he get picked by Gareth Southgate for the Euro squad?
Yeah, let's put Trent, which has been well said many a time. Trent is a fantastic wing-back, attacking full-back. His delivery is superb, and now and again he struggled this year. He's had games where he's not been as good offensively, but let's get it right. He's probably the best attacking right-back that England have got by a long way. I think Reece James is quite close. Kyle Walker, I think, is a tad down on his attacking play, but he's not had a good season defensively. And that means teams have tried to exploit Trent. Raheem Sterling did it against Liverpool. We've had Rashford, Man United, doing it. I've seen Grealish do it when they won 7-2, trying to exploit the space behind him. And I think that is the reason. And I think Klopp went a bit too far, because what I would say is it's a bit unfortunate he's been left out. No more than that. You know, Ben Chilwell was at Chelsea, okay? Got left out by Tuchel immediately as he got the job. You know, and putting Alonso in. Was he unlucky? I would say yes, he was at Chelsea being unlucky to be dropped. But he was. You know, managers have choices to make. And I think Trent is a fabulous talent and still has a big part to play. I just think you cannot say that Trent has had the season he had the year before by quite a long way.
Well, Jurgen Klopp, as I mentioned, has sort of wanting a few answers from Gareth Southgate. He says, if Trent Alexander-Arnold is not in the squad, then England must have an extremely good squad. He says, I was surprised when he didn't get the call up. I respect the decision, of course I do, but I didn't understand it. So, yes, he says, I respect that Gareth makes his own decisions, of course, but I didn't understand it in any way, because Trent Alexander-Arnold was in the last 2 seasons at least. Let me say the season before and the season before that, the standout right back in world football. That is the truth, and at an unbelievable young age. So, yeah, Jurgen Klopp certainly asking questions of Gareth Southgate. Should we also be asking questions, Cass, of Aidy Boothroyd and the under-21s for England?
Yeah, well, it's... I'm very concerned when someone's, you know, like Aidy has said, it's an impossible job.
It's a very strange thing to say, isn't it? It's very defeatist.
England have got a lot of very good young players, the envy of a number of nations in Europe. And yes, you could say AD's not getting the best talent available to him because some of them are moving up to the senior squad. Well, that happens to a lot of countries, not just England. Mm-hmm. The elite countries have that quite often. You know, there was a period when Mbappe wasn't in the French under-17s, 18s. He was drafted because he was so good for the French national first team. So I don't quite get it. England have had a very poor period. The games, I saw a couple of them, and I didn't think England played particularly well. Their best performance was the victory against Croatia. You look at the team sheet. A lot of good players, a lot of players playing at big clubs, a lot of players who are getting regular football as well. And some are not. But I thought it was a strange comment. Now, to think that it's an impossible job, I tell you what, AD, there's a lot worse jobs out there than the England under-21s, by the way.
Well, I mean, that's it, isn't it?
You know,
he has...
Ireland under-21s, I go back to Ireland again, they've had a real rough ride of it in recent seasons.
But I know you made the point about, sometimes there are players who are, let's say, fast-tracked into the senior side, but it doesn't mean there isn't an abundance of talent for the under-21s.
Well, just look at the success now. Over the under-17s, under-19s in recent years, there was always an abundance of... England don't have a shortage of players who can step in. They've always had that. And that's why they have had such a strong first team. It's always been, really, who out of the home nations and Ireland where rub shoulders or get the closest to England. That's the case. Because England's football senior team has always been the best, the pinnacle of, these islands. And we were lucky enough, we Republic of Ireland, to be close to England for a very long period. We had a side that could match them. But don't tell me they were great sides. And England have always set the benchmark with, Scotland have got close to them at times. Look, we're miles away from what England are now, but generally England always have the highest level, and they do at the youth levels as well.
Yeah, England knocked out then of the Euro Under-21 Championship in the group stage after what has been a really, really disappointing campaign.